Marcia Jung, and I lead product for Stripe Radar. Online fraud has come a long way since the early days of the internet. I still remember logging into my Hotmail account and reading an email from a desperate Nigerian prince who needed my bank account to get untold fortunes out of the country. Alas, fraud has become much more sophisticated and way more challenging to identify. And for businesses, the cost of fraud can be devastating. For every dollar lost to fraud, the total cost to your business is actually much higher because of increased operational costs, network fees, and customer churn. With the massive acceleration in e-commerce this past year, fraud has also exploded. Worldwide, fraud is expected to cost merchants $20 billion in 2021, up 18% over the past year. $20 billion, that's a lot of fraud. And it doesn't even capture the lost revenue from accidentally blocking good customers. So fraud is expensive, and fraudsters are constantly finding new ways to exploit weaknesses in your business. This is why we built Stripe Radar, to help you stay ahead of fraudsters while also maximizing conversion. Radar is Stripe's machine learning-based fraud detection solution fully integrated with the Stripe platform. Radar delivers three major benefits. First, accurate fraud detection powered by data from the Stripe network. Radar's machine learning is constantly improving by observing fraud patterns across the millions of merchants and the hundreds of millions of shoppers who use Stripe. Second, because Radar is built into Stripe, it's fast and easy to get started with fraud prevention from day one. And finally, seamless integration with other Stripe products like Checkout and Identity means you can access the power of the Stripe platform with no additional work. All this means that Radar is incredibly effective at preventing fraud, reducing disputes, and doing it all without getting in the way of your good customers. In the last year alone, Radar decreased disputes by 26% for our customers. 26%, that's incredible. Think about it. While e-commerce boomed, you'd expect disputes to skyrocket too. But across the board, Radar customers actually saw a decrease in their disputes and all the costs that go along with them. At Stripe, we believe fraud prevention is a critical piece of the payments funnel that ultimately enables you to grow your business without worry. Radar sits on top of our strong payments foundations, which you can learn more about in our payments talk. We optimize performance at every step of the payments experience, so you don't have to, and Radar is no exception. So today, we're excited to share the improvements we've made to Radar since sessions in 2019. There are 3 steps to fighting fraud that we're focused on. First, detecting fraud. We'll talk about how we're improving our machine learning to help you detect more fraud more accurately. Next, making decisions. You'll learn about how Radar enables you to make smarter decisions about fraud for your specific needs with easy-to-use workflows. And finally, taking action at scale. Here we'll share more about our authentication engine designed to select the right interventions to help you reduce fraud and increase conversion. First, at a foundational level, let's talk about Radar's machine learning. When a customer buys something online, they leave clues about their trustworthiness. Radar compares these signals to behavior across the Stripe network and then scores each transaction based on the risk it's fraudulent using various machine learning techniques. Now, anyone can claim that they use machine learning, but what actually makes any particular approach different? It's the quality of the data and the way you use it. And that's where the scale of the Stripe network makes a difference. We process hundreds of billions in payments from millions of businesses and interact with thousands of partner banks across the globe each year. This enables us to accurately detect nuanced patterns that are only evident at our scale. I want to tell you now about some of the investments we're making to improve our machine learning. We recently launched a new model architecture that uses deep learning techniques with neural networks. Now, you may have heard of these techniques in an academic context, or generally as something cool that you can do with big data, and they are cool. If you're not familiar with neural nets, they're modeled loosely on the human brain. They contain millions of connected processing nodes arranged to uncover relationships in large amounts of data, all without requiring heavy feature engineering work. And for this reason, they can find patterns that traditional algorithms like decision trees or logistic regression may miss. But the real advantages of neural nets only come when they're trained on very large data sets. So in practice, many businesses aren't able to take full advantage of them But with the scale of Stripe's data, neural nets can deliver real results. Our new models have improved Radar's machine learning performance by over 20%, helping us detect more fraud while keeping false positives low. We're also accelerating the rate of our model improvement. This year, we're starting to ship new models on a monthly basis, so we can adapt even faster to emerging fraud patterns to better protect you. If you're interested in geeking out more about our ML capabilities, sign up for our office hours to speak with someone from our team. Now, one example of how we've applied ML to a real business problem is card testing. If you've ever experienced a card testing attack, you know exactly how painful it can be. What may initially look like just a few harmless, low-value transactions can quickly turn into thousands of dollars in losses, in network fees and merchandise and lost revenue, all within just a few hours if undetected. Last year, we saw a huge spike in card testing attempts, so we developed a new model to quickly detect these attacks. But once detected, what next? There's a simple intervention that's proven to work. CAPTCHA. As a consumer, those little challenges that ask you to select the boxes with traffic lights, they can be annoying, but they're pretty easy. If you're a bot, they're nearly impossible. So recently, we added a code-free option for you to add CAPTCHA challenges in Stripe checkout. And with our ML, we only serve those challenges when a card testing attack is in progress. This means real humans almost never see a CAPTCHA, just the bots. These changes reduced card testing for businesses using Stripe checkout by a whopping 80%, with next to no detectable impact to conversion. And that's despite an increase in card testing attempts. Now, as confident as we are in our ML capabilities, we know it can still be hard to trust the black box of machine learning. Customers ask us this all the time. Why did Radar block this transaction? What can I learn about where fraud comes from and how to improve? So this past year, we partnered with a number of fraud teams to understand how to surface insights into our machine learning to help them get smarter about fraud. The result is Risk Insights, where you can see which signals impact Radar's risk score, factors like disputes or early fraud warnings from a given IP address. Glossier and Matches Fashion, along with thousands of other businesses, now use Risk Insights on a daily basis to both review flagged transactions and create new business rules to supplement Radar's machine learning model. So that's Radar's machine learning, helping you detect more fraud without blocking good customers. Now, once our machine learning has scored a transaction, your fraud team needs to make a decision. Will you block the transaction, allow it, or send it to review for further investigation? The decisions you make are critical because there's a real cost to mistakenly blocking good customers. In fact, 33% of customers in a recent survey said that they would never shop again at a merchant that falsely declines their order. Plus, they're probably not raving about you to their friends and family. In fraud prevention, we talk a lot about the cost of false positives, good customers who are essentially collateral damage in your fraud prevention efforts. The trade-off between preventing fraud and allowing good customers is different for everyone. To illustrate, let's take a look at two examples. For a low-margin retail business, say you're selling t-shirts, fraud can be expensive. A single chargeback may mean you need to sell that many more shirts to offset the loss. By contrast, say you're a software business with high margins. One good transaction could very well be worth multiple bad ones, and you may want to optimize more for conversion instead. The point being, you should be able to make the best decisions for your business, and that's what we're focused on helping you do, with the recent improvements we've made to Radar's fraud workflows. Now let me pass it over to my colleague Leela to show you what this looks like in action.
Thanks, Marcia. Let's take a look at how Radar helps you make smarter decisions about fighting fraud and maximizing conversion, right in your workflow. This is the Radar risk settings, where you can directly adjust your risk threshold. Allow more payments automatically by setting your threshold at a high risk score, or go more conservative by sending more payments to review at a lower score. We'll even estimate exactly what impact that change will have on your business, meaning you can make an informed decision about the impact to your conversion rate. Then, with the new Radar Analytics report, you have greater visibility than ever into exactly how Radar is performing for you, including total volume of blocked payments, as well as estimated false positive rate on those transactions, so you can fine-tune your protection. Next, you can write Radar rules to supplement our machine learning model or send specific transactions to manual review. For example, let's say you're a retailer that offers a 30-day free trial, and you've noticed a spike in fraudsters who use prepaid cards that you were later unable to charge. So rather than get hit with another dispute, you can write a rule that sends all transactions with prepaid cards as the funding type to manual review. While many providers offer basic rules, Radar takes it one step further by showing you in real time just how a rule will perform, based on your own transaction history. You can see how many good customers you may block, or how much in disputes you may save, and this is all before the rule is even implemented. Finally, in the unfortunate case of a dispute, Radar helps you better prioritize which disputes to fight given limited time and resources. Last year, we built a machine learning model that predicts how likely you are to win each dispute and surface those insights right in your dashboard. All of these workflow improvements together have had a huge impact in terms of cost and time savings for the merchants who use Radar. Now back to Marcia to share an example.
Thanks for the walkthrough, Leela. As you can see, our team has been surfacing insights across the fraud workflow to help you make better decisions at every step. One customer who's lowered their dispute rates with Radar is Resident. Resident sells home goods like mattresses and other sleep products direct to consumer through their own brands such as Nectar, DreamCloud, and Awara. With the help of Radar, they've been able to tightly manage dispute rates through the past year's e-commerce growth, while also approving more orders, all by adjusting their risk threshold and creating new rules to better protect their business. This is the power of the Stripe network directly in your workflow. Arm your team with better information to make the right decisions at every step of fraud fighting. So we talked about machine learning to detect fraud and the workflow improvements to make the right decisions for your business. Next, we'll talk about enabling you to take action based on these insights. As your business scales, you need interventions to authenticate customers who may be higher risk. Without interventions, you risk blocking too many good customers outright, or you need to invest in resources for manual reviews. In 2001, 3D Secure was introduced and is the most widely used intervention today. It is also one of the acceptable forms that meets strong customer authentication requirements in Europe. With Radar, you're able to optimize your checkout flows to trigger 3DS based on risk score. In addition, Radar dynamically selects a version that converts best for each transaction. This leads to up to 15% increase in success. Yet, even though 3DS improved in 2019, it's hardly the ideal intervention for many transactions. 3DS can feel disjointed and slow, and you don't always have full control over the user experience. And that's why we're expanding Radar's authentication engine with new interventions that are seamlessly integrated, configurable, and better suited for different situations. One of those interventions is Stripe Identity, a simple and programmable way to verify that people are who they claim to be. ID verification can be embedded directly into the user journey using Radar rules. Say, before a customer books a high-value transaction like a 1-month rental, where knowing exactly who your customer is essential. You can learn more about this in our identity talk. Another intervention we're really excited to introduce this year is card scanning verification. We recently acquired a company called Bouncer to accelerate our efforts in this area. With Card Scan, you can easily detect stolen cards and verify high-risk transactions with an extra layer of protection, all without sacrificing conversion rate. Online fraud is constantly evolving, and so is Stripe Radar. We've made tremendous progress in the past 2 years. We've improved our machine learning to help you detect more fraud. Radar's workflows are now more seamless so you can make smarter, faster decisions. And we've expanded our authentication engine with dynamic interventions so you can take action to reduce fraud and deliver better experiences for good customers. Looking ahead, Radar will expand beyond transaction fraud. We know that fraud happens throughout the customer lifecycle. With Stripe Identity and new customer-focused machine learning models, we'll look at fraud from a customer lens, not just a point-in-time transaction. And we'll start to protect you from additional types of fraud like account takeovers. We're excited to share more on these efforts later this year. So that's a peek at what we've been working on at Radar, giving you the tools to more effectively fight fraud while letting more good customers through, all powered by the Stripe network.